Oh no, I didn't do it this time.
No, you didn't.
It wasn't me this time.
All right, y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Welcome to Creative Makers Podcast with your host, Joey with Steel Blade Woodworks, Matt with Wacky Works Workshop, Jen with Jen's Turns, Jamie with JP Woodwork, and Jake with Northside Custom Crafts. Welcome. I'm Joey with Steel Blade Woodworks, and this is episode 18 with John from Jiggsy Shed. Wow.
Hi, everyone.
What's everybody doing? Bring him up. He's ready.
Hello.
He's ready to go. You nervous?
Sitting up straight and everything.
Yeah. Proper. So we usually started off, John. I just let everybody know out there how you got started in the maker community.
Oh, blimey. I think in the maker community was sort of, I think around 2018 with the first Maker Central. My brother-in-law invited me along to go to Maker Central. Didn't do anything on YouTube or anything myself, then didn't know anyone. So I went along to Makers, sat through some of the talks and everything, and then I think that, yes, 2018 then built my workshop with encouragement from my brother-in-law, and we then went to Maker Central again in 2019. And I remember watching went to watch Colin First talk and others, and it's like just felt inspired, and it's like, well, if they can start from nothing, start onto YouTube, I might just as well give it a go. So next moment I found myself start recording my first video thinking, what am I doing? And then the biggest change in was when we hit lockdown. I then, my daughter, when was it? 2020. So she was about 4. And so she could play outside. So I'm in the workshop, I'm recording things. So I just started editing the videos and started putting them out on YouTube. But obviously with all the time that lockdowns gave, managed to sit and watch loads of people's lives and everything. So got involved with the chat, got to know quite a few people that way. And I guess it sort of developed from that. Though I didn't do my first sticker swaps till I think Christmas 2020. And then it sort of built on that, where afterwards I then met Jamie, decided to do sticker swap.
Sorry.
Downhill from there.
Well, and then with the sticker swap, I found out that he lives not far from where I am and everything. So and through him sort of got introduced to more guys and more people and everything. So I think it sort of just built from that really. And then obviously when the world opened up again and we could go back to Maker Central, was nice to then just actually go and meet all the people that I've either seen the names in the chat or just faces on the screen. So it was actually nice to meet in person. So obviously got to meet Jake in person there for the first time as well.
Yeah, you did.
It's pretty cool. Like when we all started, like didn't know anybody, and then now it's progressed into all this, just networking and meeting different people. That's pretty cool.
No, absolutely. And I think that's what Maker Central for me became, because in the last 2 years, when I went there, I actually watched none of the demos or the talks. I was just like, well, I'd rather speak to all the people I know and or get to meet new people rather than watching someone who I can obviously easily watch something on YouTube or something, pick up what they're talking about there. Rather, it's nicer to do that networking aspect.
You can just rewatch it on their channel.
Yeah.
Normally, rewatch their talk.
Yeah.
All right, John. For people at home, my name is Jake, and I'll do the icebreaker today. So, John, if you get a Dremel from the Tooth Fairy, does that mean the dentist took out your tooth with a Dremel?
you could say it almost felt that way, but this time no, it just pried it out. Where, but other times, yeah, it's felt like it. I could just be sitting there with a Dremel working away while, yeah.
Leave it to Jake to trip you up with something like that, huh? He's gonna do it.
I thought it matched well. It's all right.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, speaking of the sounds of Dremels and whatnot, we have our first question from the chat. By the way, everybody, I'm Jen from Jen's Turn. Thank you, John, for joining us tonight. And Jackie says, John, while you're in the shop, do you listen to music or just silence while you work?
Well, that's interesting. I used to put the music a lot, then the speaker I was using died, or I think I then put fake earpods in or something, which they've died now as well. But I found, I think with my previous lathe, it was quite loud, so it was struggled to sometimes hear what I was listening to. So I stopped, and I haven't actually started it up since I had my new lathe now, which is over a year. But mainly also when I do things, I've got to listen out for the kids and everything as well if they're playing outside. And but I thought to put it back in. Normally, what I would do is either music, or I've recently been doing more like Audible or something, listening to books or something. So I need to start doing that back in the workshop. Put that back in my ears.
Hopefully, Creative Makers Podcasts.
Yeah,
podcasts are good.
Yeah, there's definitely a few I've got to catch up with while I was away. So yeah.
Speaking of that, it's always funny though, because you can know when John is going through his list of catching up, because there'll be videos that you've had out for a little while and you'll get a comment out of nowhere. And I was like, oh, he's going through his list.
Yeah. Currently, just checking just now, my list is 3 months old. So yeah. So if people just put videos out there I normally comment on, expect some comments coming through in the next few weeks.
It's pretty good for us though. It's like a savings account. We know that you're going to come and hit that video and maybe get it jump started again.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, my name is Matt with Wacky Works. You say you turn a lot, and what kind of wood do you like to use? What's your favorite kind of wood to turn with?
Oh, blimey. Yeah, so most of what I do at the moment is turning, mainly because my workshop is, when I built it, I got the bench up, got the lathe up, and then my wife said, right, now you've got to do other jobs, and half of the workshop is unfinished. So I've still got to get a workbench in there because I want to do some more flat work stuff. I've got a friend who's asked me to basically do him a guitar body from an old bed frame of his, so sort of sentimental value. So I need to get a workbench up to be able to start doing that, and get a few better tools for that. But wood-wise, it's pretty much whatever I can get. I do currently have a lot of ash, that because a lot of my wood comes from a local farm. A friend who, whenever there's a storm, I would either contact him or he'll let me know he's got a tree down. Mostly so the last couple of years it's been ash that's been coming down, so I'm processing a lot of that. I've just the last week picked up some English maple that came down, so that's now seasoning. Got a whole shelf of that. But yeah, I think so I would say I do like working with ash, especially with coloring and everything, because it takes stains very nicely. And see, with the different grain structure, the black and base works quite nicely. But I tend to love working with maple as well, because of the grain is just so beautiful sometimes with that. So and even that takes stains well. But I need to pick some more bigger blanks up, because I've got a few paint projects in mind, but I need to have a big blank so I can make a sort of a wider platter to show the paint effect off. But it means for that I'll need to get down to the shop to go get some. So Styles and Bates journey there, JP.
All right.
Hey, does anybody else notice how mature we got when we didn't make any ash jokes during that whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
goodness,
waiting to
almost
see if
died.
you were going
I
to do
died
it.
3 times. I died. Yeah.
My eyes were on you. I was waiting to see if you were going to pop off with something.
Yeah.
I was very surprised. Way to
That
go.
was rough. That was rough, man.
All right, I'm Jamie from JP Woodwork. So John, so originally being from South Africa, I would like to know how does the tools and wood availability differ from between the UK and South Africa?
Oh, blimey, it's a bit tricky for me to specifically know on that because ultimately I moved here when I was 14. So although I did woodwork in primary school there and everything, and my dad had a workshop, so that's sort of where I picked up a lot of what I do now, sort of the encouragement of it. But I think there's definitely other types of wood that you would get there. That's, I think, which one is my dad said that he used? I think it's called stinkwood. I think is one, but I want to say that's possibly a bit more rare or something. I'm not sure exactly. There's definitely different types you can get there, and I think availability wise, yeah, to be fair, I can't really comment to say what it's like availability, unfortunately.
All right, fair enough.
So
That was awesome. Anybody else would have said, I don't know.
Yeah. At least
but
gave,
yeah, I
good.
just know my dad was talking about loads of different types of wood that he would use there that actually was in a sense seen as common to have, whereas here we would class that as a full exotic sort of wood or something and pay a lot of money for it. But I do think some of that has possibly changed as well in terms of the availability and what you can get. I know some of the big places is sort of protected land and everything. It's not, you can't just go and get it, but you generally know quite a lot of people in the area. If you're going to process your own wood, there may be a lot of farms and everything where they'll take things down. But yeah, I don't know from the local area how many people would have actually used the wood that was growing there per se. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, my question is going to be is I need to know a little bit about this shop build you did here.
Yeah.
Was it just you and your wife? Explain it a little bit. It's pretty interesting. I'm staring at some of the pictures. Y'all's building process is a little different than ours.
The workshop, yeah. It's basic. I think my brother-in-law built himself basically a lean-to workshop in at his, and he said, "Oh, he'll help me with something." So I just drew up some designs. Basically, it's just basically a glorified shed, and decided to rather than buy like a pre-made one which you erect, which is usually here either quite expensive and quite flimsy, given that what I've built stood quite well through the storms. Our neighbor put up a summer house which was just like 15 mil of wood or something. First storm that hit, the whole roof blew off and landed in the neighbor's garden. So I was quite pleased with mine standing nice and firm. But yes, I just drew up the designs, decided what sort of timber I needed and everything, and contacted the local timber yard here, and they basically within the week they delivered quite a lot of wood. quite a stack in the garden, and then my brother-in-law came over for a weekend, and we built the main frame within the weekend, and then I just needed to do some cladding and the roofing afterwards, and then sort of slowly worked away on the inside, which obviously still half undone. Where I am now is the craft shed that I built for my wife, which is also, I've got a little corner for office work. So this is probably the most complete one. I've just got some trimming left to finish. But yeah, she made sure I'm finished her thing as pretty much rather than my own.
Yeah. So is that like sorry, Jake, but was that like one of your first biggest builds? Like, had you ever done anything like that before?
No. It's my workshop was my first big build. So it was a big learning curve.
Yeah.
There's definitely things I will do differently. And some of the cladding has warped a bit and everything. So I've got to take it off and either put new ones on or something, remove it. But it's finding the time and the energy I'd much rather do loads of other things than do that, but
Right.
at some point it will have to come off and redo that. But load learned, but slowly every time I'm like, yeah, I'll do this bit a bit differently and sort of learn from that. So
Great.
All right, you heard Jamie mention. Hold on, do you want to go, or what are you going to do? What you want to do?
I'm going to interrupt Jake and ask a question from the chat.
Okay.
Sorry. Martin would like to know, what is your favorite thing you've ever built?
well, I have enjoyed doing the shed builds and everything, but I think probably one of my favorite ones is going back to even before at my workshop up. I was building it in my the friend I've got who's got the small holdings, been building a house, and while what is now his kitchen used to be his workshop while he was building, so he had loads of tools in there, and I basically used that to build a to be fair, I got wood from what we've got here, B&Q, so probably like Home Depot or something over there, and just bought some of the cheap white wood to build this big chest, sort of, I think 900 mil by 50 by sorry, not 900 by 500 by 500 sort of chest, so which is now sort of holding our board games. That was a really fun one to do, but being wood from B&Q, it's not very well it's cheap wood and was getting very warped and everything as well while I was doing it. Trying to find a straight bit amongst it was interesting. But
is it
probably
me now? Is it me now?
Go ahead.
Hey, Jamie mentioned earlier about South Africa, and I know it's not your fault. Well, why does their post office suck so bad?
Yeah, good question. Just experience-wise, there's obviously some people who live there might correct me, but from my experience, there's quite a bit of corruption in the places, and I know from experience that they will, if you send money or anything, if there's anything that feels like it might have value in it, it will be opened and often and checked. This, yeah.
Just to give a little context, I've sent 3 or 4 packages to South Africa. One of them got delivered correctly, and one of them somebody stole the stuff out of it, and it got returned to sender 2 years later.
The envelope, not the stuff.
Yeah.
Box.
My experience is that if you send something there, you're playing a lottery.
Yeah.
And the odds of it getting there is as much as winning the lottery.
Yeah, I check marked that off for places not to send anything to.
And they
do PayPal and money.
They do hit you quite heavily on the import tax front as well. So obviously, if you send something there, the person gets charged. I think my mum sent like secondhand books to my granddad once. So obviously you think, yeah, it's free or something, but the customs reckoned that no, there's value to this, and charged my granddad more than the books were worth So my mum's like, no, don't go pick it up, just leave it. Don't pay that.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Connie said, so Jake, there's still hope for my bowl. No, your bowl's done, Connie. It's out there. You're done. It didn't go to South Africa.
It's on
It got
somebody
lost
here.
here. Yeah. Maybe it is
On
in South
somebody's
Africa. Who
show.
knows?
Somebody's eating some cereal out of that thing somewhere. Doing something.
Though I had an interesting experience sending one through to the States before, where I did the international tracking and everything. It left here within a day, and then got stuck in Chicago for a month. And the tracking just ceased, and the next moment it's like, oh, they tried to deliver it.
Wow.
Yep.
Sure.
But there was another one I sent to the same place, and it had basically traveled around Chicago. You saw it like going from depot to depot before finally it moved up.
Goodness. So,
That
John, I
person-
was looking through some of your Instagram stuff, and there were some
Mhm.
bud vases that you did with mixed colors of milliput as
Yeah.
inlay, and
Mhm.
I loved how the swirl turned out and everything. What's your favorite type of inlay to use on your turnings?
Oh, blimey. I know I've
Blimey's a word of the day. Blimey.
Blimey.
Yeah. I don't know. I like to experiment with things, and I do love the milliput because the effect you can get with it is great. Though I haven't actually done anything with it. The bud vase you probably looked at was an off-cut piece. I had done something with milliput years ago, and then had all this leftover amount. So I was like, right, I've got to do something with it. So I just put some grooves into a piece of timber and shoved it in there, and it was standing on the shelf for years before I was like, actually, I need to do something with that now. So the bud vase came from that, but yeah, I need to do some more because the different effects you can get with it, and obviously everybody's like a fingerprint. It's going to be unique. I've tried with the resin before, but I was inexperienced and messed that up quite a bit as well. I should have listened to Jake more before I did that. I know a lot more now than I did, so I wasted quite a bit of resin in the past, but it's good fun. Currently, I do use epoxy glue quite often as well, sort of for small scale. So the ash bowl I did just before visiting my friends in Montana, which was a gift for them. I'd filled up the cracks with that, and then using the O3 adhesives thick black glue, so same as the Star Bond one, just for the smaller cracks, and that was quite good. So quite like the effect that gave. So we'll probably do more of that. But yeah, I think inlays, depending what I'm doing at the time. But yeah, milliput is quite a fun one, and I've got a few ideas lined up that I would do with that, but I need to get again, like I said, some big pieces of wood to be able to carve nicely and do that with. So
So you said you were at Maker Central, met a bunch of people, got to talk to a bunch of people. Is there anybody that you wish that you could have got to meet at Maker Central? One person you really want to meet?
Good to say, because this year I did manage to get around to more people. Obviously, the bigger names, they always generally got more of a crowd around, so you don't get to chat more with them, but actually got to meet Jimmy DeResta a bit properly this time. But again, it was a very short chat with him because he had loads of other people hanging around. So probably do want to spend a bit more time talking to him some point. But I think, I know afterwards there's a few people that I've missed that is in the community and everything, who's sometimes commented on my videos that I didn't even know were there. So I think there's Dean Makes was there, but didn't get a chance to speak to him, but managed to get his sticker somehow. So yeah, so definitely a few there. I know last year I did manage to have a nice chat with Peter Brown and his wife. That was cool. So and I think it's when you get these people who you see as big names in the community and everything, and you're like, yeah, there's no way they'd want to talk to me or something. And the next moment you're in a conversation, which is great.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned your beloved wife a few times during the show, John. My question is how many times in total has she borrowed permanently your Dremel hoodie?
It's here.
Aw.
I've got it.
You managed to pry it from her hands.
She loves hoodies, and all my hoodies from university has been taken by her. Basically, so taken, it's been claimed by her. I've got no stake on them anymore. So she will walk around with something saying physiotherapy on the back, and people are like, "Oh, you're physio." She's like, "No, not me." But she's so when the Dremel hoodie appeared, I could see her like looking over my shoulder and wanting to take it. And I think when was it? We were at my parents' one weekend, and I had it in the back of the car for myself, and she did have other warm stuff. But so she took my keys to go get her stuff out. Next one, she's walking out wearing my jumper. I was like, hey, no. But at least she took it off before she had food, because I could have. I was like, you're not getting anything on that. Though I found, it needed to have a wash afterwards, because she did manage to get some dirt somehow onto it. But hopefully, we've averted it a little bit at the moment, because while we were away, she managed to get a hoodie, a Montana hoodie. So that's sort of a favorite at the moment. So I think I'm safe for probably the next month.
Safe until you leave it unattended, and then it's hers.
Yep.
So what is the greatest accomplishment you've had since starting all this? What's the best thing you've built in your shop that you're proud of?
I think everything I do, I enjoy the learning experience, trying the different techniques and everything. But the one that's actually standing here, which I always go back to, is the Rapunzel's Tower. This one.
Oh yeah.
So that was done for a challenge at one point, and my daughter's into Disney, or my wife as well. So I took the image and put it into the CAD program, sort of just did the design, get a template, and then turned it on the lathe. But what was nice was this vaulted beach, giving a nice effect and everything. And so that was a bit of fun to do. I need to get a brighter light, because there's broken mirror shards in there, but the little LED light isn't strong enough to actually reflect enough of that. So, but yeah, this was a fun one to do.
Cool.
That is cool.
Very nice.
It was on my old lathe as well, which was quite slow on its last legs, and I think that was about 14 hours worth of work into that, whereas now it will be quicker. I'm a bit more experienced, everything is a bit quicker, but I remember having time to get that finished, so I had enough time to edit the video for the challenge. And I was standing in the workshop, and I forgot about time, because it's sort of like you come to the end and it's like 1 o'clock. It's fine. I'm nearly done. I'm just going to keep pushing on. It was starting to get light outside. I started getting the sun shining into the workshop. I was like, I need to get to bed now. It was 4. I think it was about 4:30 or something when I got to bed. And my wife's like, the next day, she's like, "What time did you get to bed?" "Oh, I don't know. It was late, but I can't remember." And I knew that day I was not allowed to act tired. I was not allowed to show. I had to get the kids sorted and everything, and I'm like, I just need to get through this day.
I remember you posting about that one. I was like, what is he doing?
Hey.
So speaking of projects that take a while, you did a #1 hollower project it was a challenge for Huey or whatever, and it had a background and it had the hollower and some other things in it, and I think you used every tool in your shop. So how long did that one take?
Oh, I can't actually remember because I did it was obviously the partly in 2 stages, but I don't know. It didn't take me as long as I thought it would necessarily. The skull sawing part on the motor saw took me probably, I think I was out there probably about 2 or 3 hours doing that, and then obviously the sanding of the pieces took quite a while, just the intricate getting in there. But I always find it difficult to necessarily judging the time frames because I never get a set period where I can work. It's usually I grab an hour here, I grab half an hour there or something, because everything is managed around the kids and life. So if I get 2 hours in the workshop, I'm happy.
I just remember thinking that whole thing was a joke. And when I was watching the video, I think this guy went all the way for this joke. It was like over the top on doing a joke. He was dedicated, and it was a pretty cool project.
I think I probably it took me probably a week to do the most part. I did the little bowl with the funnel in it the week before, but that was about a 2 hour, 3 hour piece. It was mainly the lacquering and the coloring that took the time on that. But the main one, I would say, took me about a week to really get the piece done. With I think the most I spent in one day was managed to get a Saturday when the wife was like, "Yeah, I'll do something with the kids," and I'd 4 hours to sit outside. And yeah, I think so. I want to say it was probably would have been in the region of about 12 to 15 hours, if I have to guess what that took. But it didn't feel that long because everything was done in bits. So the #1 hollower that I made, or the small one, that was a session in itself. That was probably the turning and everything was about an hour's work or something to do that. So, but yeah,
awesome project, buddy.
Yep.
Cool, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, no, that was a good laugh though, especially presenting it to Huey.
Yep.
I remember though, I was working on that, and Jamie was doing his giveaway where he was giving the #1 hollow away, and Huey was obviously hoping for it, and I'm going, please don't get it, please don't get it. Otherwise it could have spoiled the joke. But I did think it would be funny if I got it though, and could turn with that his hollower. But no, it's that was a good laugh though. So.
That was it. That joke that thing went on for quite a while, didn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I brought it back up.
Yeah.
Yeah. John, most turners, well, a lot of turners, they end up with quite a collection of their own things unless they sell them or give them away. We all know Jamie has quite the area in his shop where he puts
in his loft, I think.
Yes, his loft. Do you tend to keep most of your creations, or do you give them away or sell them?
I do have a whole area in our lounge that is getting filled up, and wife's like, "Here's a box, just put them away in there." I still haven't put them away. One thing is I want to create enough to take to a market, but I don't get the time to sit down and just do a load of production run. And when I do things, often they get given away as gifts and everything. So it's quite nice having a supply where you can go, actually, here's a gift for that will work as a gift for that person or something. So yeah, they do often get given away, but I do have an mounting stock that is going sitting here that I need to either display or either sell off or something. So I'm currently in the process of building a website. I bought a domain, bought a hosting, and then sat there going, now what? couldn't think on the design or something, but so I've slowly been working on that. I've got a holding page up, but I want to put just a bit of a shop on there that will have some of the stuff that I'm willing to get rid of and just sell that way. So some point. Yeah, but yeah, so I do have a collection building.
John, it looks like all your bowls and your potpourri bowl and everything like that, it has different textures or different styles. Where do you come up with the inspiration to be able to do that, all the different styles like that?
I think it's probably the countless hours sitting watching YouTube, seeing everyone else sort of. I take a lot of the inspiration from things on YouTube. A lot of it has come from people like obviously watching some of the stuff Jamie does, Wayne, the Woodturner, and various other people with playing with different textures. And then I think sometimes I would take what they've done and sort of think, well, what can I do with that or do differently or just give a go? And obviously, when you start with a texture, it always ends up differently to how you initially envisaged it or something. So, which I like. It's sort of just a bit part of the process. And often I would start a project with one thing in mind and finish with something completely different. So, but yeah, most of the inspiration is what I see on YouTube. I do look for things elsewhere as well, sort of around. So, picking up ideas. So if I see things like, I know a friend who's got like a vase or something at home, that gave me some ideas. Recent pen pot I did was the inspiration from a vase that I'd seen while I was out on holiday in Spain. So where I put sort of dimples into the side of it, and yeah, it's sort of environment as well. I've got a few ideas that for sort of paint and everything, which comes from scenery and stuff I've seen while I was away or something. So I just need to find some time to do some digital editing to make a template for what I'm going to use. So yeah.
All right. So you got a Coronet Herald around about February 2022. I'm just wondering how you like it as a mid-sized lathe.
From what I've had, it's quite an upgrade because I had the Sharnwood, I think W811, which you can't even get anymore the parts for it. But it's similar if you look on Amazon. It's like your starter lathe or something. I think Lumberjack does something similar to that. And that was bell chain system. So having the variable speed on the Coronet Herald makes such a difference. Just being able to just flick it down and up depending what you're doing. So with finishing and everything, it just makes such a change in that. And for a small workshop, it's actually a perfect size. And this obviously a swiveling headstock is a lifesaver with trying to hollow the bowls, because the amount of times I've previously tried to hollow, and I'm especially doing one where you've got to come in underneath, so sort of more hollow form sort of style, and I just get blocked by the wall. So being able to bring it out makes a difference. But I do need to get a tailstock that's one of the S-curved ones or something to get into the deeper bowls, because the last big bowl I did, that was I got a bit of chatter with the turning the ash because I couldn't get the tailstock deep enough to give it enough support as I was getting to the depth, so I had to end up using the scraper to just clear it out in the end. So, but no, I would definitely I love it, and it's great for the workshop size. So obviously you always think, oh, it'd be nice if I've got a bigger lathe or something, but I've got to think about space and what I can do on this. It's definitely opened up the possibilities a lot more, and yeah, and didn't think much about. I think the piece I had on it when it was wet, it was around about 5-6 kilograms on it, so it didn't think much about turning that. So apart from anything off balance, my workshop does start to shake if it goes too quick. So I've got things falling off the wall and everything. You probably sometimes see, if you watch my videos, usually around the start when I'm doing the roughing, if I've got it turned up too much, you may suffer some seasickness because the camera starts it starts moving, especially when I've sped it up.
So you're go ahead. You
say, how deep, boys?
Real deep.
Real deep.
Real deep. Well, you're sponsored by Dremel, correct? Is that the proper word to say there? So how have you incorporated those tools that they send you? Has that been a help in the turning process, or do you not use them when you're turning? You know, how do you use those?
I think it's given me more obviously with the sponsorship, it's given me more incentive to use them because there's now a purpose for using them. So I've got to constantly think about how can I incorporate it in what I do to put the content out, obviously to meet the agreement. And so I think in a sense, going back to the different textures that I've got that Matt asked about, is it comes from that as well. The fact that I've got to think, well, how can I do something that's going to present it differently? Obviously, we see a lot on YouTube, a lot of makers who is using different textures and tools to do that. So I've sort of got to think, so there's some bits that I want to try, but actually other times it's like, well, what can this tool do? So that's probably one of the reasons a lot of my work ends up with texture on it as well. But yeah, so I think incorporating it has been fairly easy in that sense. I will usually try and do obviously at least one turning a month with the texture in, if not more, depending on how much time I get. It's I think from the sponsorship opportunity, it gives me the chance to try out various tools, various bits and pieces that I would not have gone and purchased myself necessarily before. I think when I first bought my first Dremel, it was I was like, I can't afford the bits or something, so I did what anyone does: go on Amazon, buy the cheapest thing you can get, and then realize later that the cheap stuff is absolutely rubbish. Though I might have to do a comparison video with this stuff, because I've still got a brand new set of cheap stuff I've got to compare to what the actual Dremel stuff can do. But it's so it's opened that I'm doing other things that I wouldn't have done before, like glass engraving as well. So having a play with that and everything. So it's sort of open up the opportunities more for me.
Yeah. Cool.
So I noticed in a lot of your turnings there's color in it. So is that something you started from the start, or did you watch somebody else doing color and that made you want to do it, or how did that go?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to say where exactly that is. I know my brother-in-law did a lot with color before I started turning, and he sort of encouraged me. I've seen some of his pieces, and I was like, I'd like to try that. I've watched a lot of Martin Saban-Smith when he was doing loads of his YouTube videos, so learn from him and inspired by his things. But then also, again, getting more involved with the community, getting to know Jamie, Wayne, everyone, and seeing the experiments they're doing. So sort of encouraged me to experiment with the colors and various things myself. And I've got a few techniques I want to try out that will be quite interesting, but I'm not going to talk about that now because I don't want to give away what it's going to be. I just need to get the right wood for it. But it's sort of things that I used to do we used to do as children that will be used as a technique, sort of incorporated into that. So to give some nice effects. But yeah, so I think it's just being inspired by people and see that whole thing about enhancing pieces or something. I know when I was at school, I wasn't regarded as an artist. It was one of those where you had to either do a specific, be able to paint or something, otherwise you couldn't do art or something. And I think when I was was it I can't remember which year it was now, but when I was about 15 or something, that I got an award for the most improved in art. It just meant I was, according to them, I wasn't rubbish, or I was still rubbish, but I apparently made some improvement. But I can't draw. I struggle to draw anything like that. So don't ever play Pictionary with me or something, because I guess my family used to laugh when I had to draw a baboon. It was something completely weird. But I think with woodwork, everything like that, it actually showed me that I don't need to be an artist in the sense of fine art or something like that. I can throw things onto a blank canvas in a sense and make my own thing there, getting the wood itself to obviously with the art enhancing the wood, the effect that gives and everything. And obviously, yeah, it's not coloring wood isn't to everyone's taste, because I've had comments on some of my projects as well about people saying they'd have left it clear, pure or something like that. But in the end, it's a canvas to me, and I'll do with it what I want.
There you go.
There you go. There you go.
You're the one that's making it, not them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To be fair, you get paintings in the. I remember being in the Tate Modern here, and there was a painting of I think it was a red square or something like that, and you're like, why is that art? But to someone else, that was amazing.
Mhm.
Like, okay. And I know I do joke with Jamie as well. We get the things about people seeing an unmade bed as art and everything. So each to their own.
Mhm.
Some people would use a Mona Lisa as a coaster. Some people would see it as art.
Yep.
Yeah. So obviously it's what's in your mind, and it's what it means to you. So for me, I always find it I think I've had a good time if I walk around and my hands covered in stains and colors and everything. So the next day people see what's going on with your hands. It's like, oh yeah, I've done this or something like that, and it's sort of.
Well, I do think that you are a talented artist. I was really looking at your 100th YouTube upload. That bulb,
Blimey.
what you did with the cutouts
Blimey.
and everything, and you burned it. It was very unique, and I found it very beautiful. So
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
that. On a different track, my question is, you process a lot of your own logs and seal them and everything so that you can let them season and turn
Mhm.
them later. Have you tried the technique where you turn it wet and then let it dry a bit and warp and see what comes from that and then finish it? Or do you always let it season?
No, so I have done some wet turning. I had some apple that was cracking, and that was warping on the lathe as I was turning. So I think that was earlier this year, and then I think I called the one flamed apple or something like that, where I'd taken the blowtorch to it, and that really brought out some nice color in it. But that had gone crazy with the warping. I know I had sort of done it as a bit of a thing to show my dad, because when he was doing turning in South Africa, it was on the similar to the old lathe I had, and it was mainly spindles. He never did bowl turning, so I sort of showed him what I could do with that. And this piece was cracking, warping. I was like, "What would you do with this?" He's like, "I'll chuck it. Let's chuck it on the fire." I was like, So I took the Dremel to it, carved the heck out of it and everything, and it was ended up burning it. And so that was a good experiment. I've done one before ages ago where they did sort of just a plant pot or something that was a wet walnut, turned that and then dried it in the microwave, and that had some warping to that. the bowl I did, so not the video that was out last night, the one that came out, that was out last week. That was turned, I think it was around 25% moisture when I started turning it. Then I chucked it in the microwave because I needed to get it dried out. And then it cracked quite a bit because I was rushing it in the microwave rather than taking it slow. I was like, I need to get this done. And doing 30-second times is going to take me forever. So I was like whacking it up. It's coming out hot. I can hear it. I could hear the wood moving as I'm doing it, but that led to some really nice cracking, that then got filled with epoxy and the black CA, so that made quite a nice effect. So I think a lot of the ash I'm turning is some from last year, so they're around about 14% when I start the turn, but with the standing air process, it sort of dries them out a bit more. But I do get a slight warp still in them. So some of the, I think if I go back to the Dragon Bowl I did, or something which was all the texture, and then Emma Cook's chameleon flakes all around, that's got a slight warp in it. If you look at it, you can see a slight raise in the middle towards where the pith would have been. But I like the warping. I know there's sometimes where people are like, oh, everything has to be completely stable or something. But I like the natural effect of wood as well, because it's a living, in a sense, it's a living, not an element, but I can't think of the word now.
Thing.
Organism.
Yeah, so it's something that's been alive and everything. It's got character, everything. So I like the fact when it moves, because to me it's a natural process, and so I don't mind warping or something, especially when you're looking down the artistic aspect of it as well. So yeah, so so I think it's a range. I do sometimes, depending what I do. So especially when I do paints, I need to make sure that obviously, or paints and lacquer, that the wood is more dry, that it will hold that. So I do need to let them season longer.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the lathe, you got some other little tools here. What's next? What's the next tool that's going to be popping up in your shed?
I do have my eye on it's a small planer thicknesser. That is, I think, is on Rutland Tools, that they've got. I may have the size completely wrong, but I think it should fit into the workshop on the workbench. Because I do want something for thicknesser that I can do a bit more glue ups and everything as well. Because at the moment, trying to get something with a perfectly smooth surface sometimes isn't great to do that. So sort of do some more segmented type of things as well. But there's been a few projects where like, it'd be great if I had a thicknesser, but then I was thinking that actually if I get it with a benchtop planer as well, that will help. So I think Rutland Tools got one for around about £350 or something. So it's probably one of the next big things that I'm saving up for.
If it doesn't fit, you can always add on. That's what.
Sorry.
If it doesn't fit, you can always just add on.
Yeah, got to convince the wife to that first, that I need more space there. I think, and then I'm also thinking about a better table saw, because I used to have a decent one, and then on one of my big builds, because I quite often rip like 2x3s or 2x4s and everything, to rip it up into smaller pieces depending what I'm doing. And I remember doing that, and the motor just died on me. I'd smoke at everything, tight working through. And then I was just like, well, what can I afford at the moment? I need to finish this build I'm on. So I went to a screw fix here and just bought the cheapest table saw they have. Tried to do some precision work recently, where I was routing out, or not routing, but sort of like making grooves to take out an inner section out of a piece of wood to fit around a column. And I start at one height. By the end, the blade had dropped in height, and there was nothing you could do to fix it. So I was like, that sucks a bit. I've got to try and rethink this. So for precision work, I need a better table saw, but I'm looking for one that's going to be smaller to fit in the workshop, because what I've got was cheap and it's absolutely massive, and I'm constantly tripping over it in the workshop. So that will have to be stored somewhere else.
Yeah. So you mentioned when we were talking the other day that you was in search and rescue. Does that involve looking around the workshop for a bit of wood and then refinishing it?
So no.
I think probably the skills I learned in search and rescue has lent itself to finding things in the workshop, because I do find I lose a lot. The other thing that happens in my workshop is, so on the nice summer days or something, I'll have the doors open to the workshop, and so I can hear the kids playing outside while I'm in there. My little one, so my 3-year-old, has taken to coming up to the door, and she takes some of the shavings to play with it. So I'm constantly seeing her scooping up the shavings. But I've often got a few things down the side on the floor that I will use from time to time. So you'll see these old chopping boards come up that I'll put on the lathe, especially when I'm doing some glue ups or stuff like that. And I'll reach down and it's gone. And it's because she's nicked it. She's very good at nicking my tools. I remember doing a DIY build. I was doing some drawers under the stairs, so to knock the wall out and everything, and then putting these drawers in. And I've got my screwdriver, my combi drills and everything there. And I'd be working. I'd turn around to reach for the tool that was just there, or my tape measure or something, and it's gone. And it's because she's walked off with it.
She's helping.
Blind me.
Blind me.
Yeah. So from the search point, I think I've learned a lot of skills there that helps me find things in the workshop, especially with the fact that I think if you watch my latest turning video, it's quite a mess in there at the moment. I need to get that tidied again. But the thing is, I tidy it up, do some work, and the next moment it's untidy again. So I'd rather be turning or making something than constantly be tidying. So
yeah,
we all.
And it takes one project to get it all dirty again, and you're like, what's the point?
We've learned some interesting words today, haven't we? Jamie had never said those before. I guess one last question, before we wrap this up. What else do you want to work with? What do you aspire to try a different medium, or like other than turning? Do you want to work with metal or something like that?
Definitely metal is something I've always wanted to. My granddad used to be a welding supervisor on the railways in South Africa. So he was always doing things with that. My dad would do some welding, and I've done some builds with him when we were in South Africa and everything. But yeah, so I did try and see some point if I could do something for work, and so I tried to convince my wife, who's my boss at work. So trying to convince her that work needs to buy me a welder so I can build them these things. It didn't go down well. So
That's a good try. That's a good, smart thinking, though.
Yeah. So metal work is the one thing I would like to be able to do, because it will just add to some of the bigger builds and stuff that I do and everything as well. So yeah.
So we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. John, why don't you tell us what you got coming up next, and let everybody know out there that's listening in and that will be listening where to find you and what you got coming up next.
Okay, so obviously to find me, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok as well, though I don't post that much on TikTok. My main profiles is Instagram and YouTube, but all my handles are Jiggsy Shed. Obviously, I've got a website coming out soon as well. That is literally just going to be Jiggsy's -shed.co.uk. So that will be out soon. I'll do an announcement on my Instagram or something when that's up and running. probably what I've got coming out next. Currently on the lathe, I've got a spalted maple from a tree that came down in 21, so 2 years ago. So that's got some lovely spalting and in there. So I've part-turned it, chucked some glue into some of the cracks. So looking forward to getting that done. Initially, I was going to do it and put some color on it. I was like, there's too much spalting to cover up with paint, so it's going to be just a natural one. But there's a couple, like I say, there's a couple of techniques I really want to try out that I've got in my mind that will be coming up hopefully in the next few months, as long as I can get to the shop to get some good sized blanks for wider end platters or for wider end bowls. Yeah.
Nice.
Alrighty, Jenny Jen.
Hello, everybody. I am on vacation this week. Aloha.
What? Where you at?
Aloha.
Read the sign. Here's your sign.
So I am not doing much in the shop this week, but I did recently start doing things on the rotary, on the laser. So doing some tumblers and water bottles and having a good time with that sort of stuff. So they're not on my Etsy yet, but if you're interested, you can send me a message on Instagram and we could talk about it.
There you go. Awesome reels on Instagram, by the way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here you go, Matt Wackerdoodle.
I'm working on my vacuum table for my CNC. Got some plumbing to do there, some figuring of how to join pipes together and get that done and get the post of that taken care of hopefully pretty soon on YouTube. So that's me.
Jamie Page.
Oh, blimey.
Word of the day.
I've got a little bit of editing to do and then make more projects. Then we've got cartoons on to the 3rd year of cartoons now. So thanks to everyone that came over to support that as well. So yeah, Saturday cartoons.
All right. So we have Saturday morning cartoons coming up. It has the Blank Club mystery box giveaway, the silver ticket giveaway. All of the Blank Club, the Jig Blank Club boxes are going to go out. So we're going to put our faith and trust into the lovely people at the post office next week. We love you. Oh.
Yes. Well, John, thank you for hanging out with us. I know it's late over there. We appreciate you staying up and talking to us. All John's links are below. And next week we got coming up is our little buddy Andrew with AGK, and we'll be here. Everything now is out on the airwaves, so you can pick us up on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart. There's a lot of them, but you'll find us all out there. Please go listen and make sure you give us 100 stars. I don't like anything less than that, but anyhow, same time. Oh, I'm working on some stuff in the shop. Y'all see it on my Instagram. Follow the stories. It's there.
There you go.
We're messing around with that stuff, but anyhow, same time, same place, same beautiful faces, and we're gonna get out of here. But we're gonna pause for a minute and